Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Backlot Banter. My name is Tucker Hazel, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Taryn Extra, who I think his ranking would go movies family god. You know what I'm saying? And today we're here to talk about him. It's a football horror movie for our eyes and ears and our viewing pleasure, and we're here to give you our thoughts on it. But of course, if you have seen him, please leave a comment in the description letting us know your thoughts on the film, or feel free to join our Discord where we can talk directly about the movie and our thoughts about it. Tanner.
Yes.
Congratulations on the touchdown. That was beautiful. We
Thank
all,
you,
we
thank
all
you,
saw
thank
that
you.
the long pass, the Hail Mary,
Right, right, and then I
the running
transitioned myself
back,
into the wide receiver, the running back,
yeah.
perhaps to do a couple stiff arms, dive across that goal line. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
on the topic of football that we're usually talking about,
Oh,
and incidentally happens today that we can bring in a movie.
absolutely.
Uh,
hmm
how do you feel about the movie Him?
Oh, the movie Him, Tucker, of course. Tucker, I don't think this movie is especially good. I don't think. There are things that I think it does well, but there are also things that I feel it really misses the mark on, or perhaps doesn't quite get across that goal line, or maybe smells a little bit of a technically it's not a first feature, but it
Yeah,
is a first like blockbuster high profile feature
sure.
for director Justin Tipping. For as much as they tried to convince people that Jordan Peele directed this film, he in fact did not.
No.
So yeah, I think I have some positive notes here, but I mostly, unfortunately, I feel like whenever I bring them up, or I'll have something negative to say
Yeah,
about them,
sure.
or some just negative to say overall about certain aspects of this movie.
Yeah, I don't know. When I heard that the reviews were pretty bad, actually,
hmm
I was expecting worse. I think Him is pretty good. I think that
Okay.
it knows what it's going for, and where its strengths lie, I think, are actually pretty strong. I think
Mm.
our pair of two performances, I think, are very good. I think that the
Mm.
imagery is actually excellent. I think that the sound design is top notch. I think that the cinematography and the lighting and the production design are all like really, really impressive. And so this is a movie for me about a visceral experience. It's about these interesting moments of editing where
Mm.
where they're cutting in X-ray footage, and
Yeah.
that where the sound design is coming in and out, and where like people are hiding in the shadows, and you've got these really like stark frames with interesting brutalist architecture, and like
hmm
pulling in elements of football culture, and like trophies shining and people in weird masks and holding signs and stuff. I'm like, it struck me. I found it very striking.
Mm.
Because I haven't really seen a movie like this before that leans into
It,
like
it
the
it is
darker
certainly
side of
unique.
sports culture. Um,
Yeah.
and from all that, and from where the story sits at a base level, I think is an interesting premise. I think that uh, the problem for me is largely the characterization and dialogue. I think
Yep.
don't really go anywhere, aren't as deep as maybe they purport to be, but uh, for a 96-minute movie, very short,
hmm
I just enjoyed watching it because I think it's well crafted. I wouldn't say it's well
mm
done on the whole. I don't think it's a great movie, but
Yeah.
for the strengths that it has, I think that there's really some talent here. And okay, maybe you don't give it to Justin Tipping, but you instead give the credit to the cinematographer and the production designer and the
Yeah.
lighting designer. Like
No,
maybe it
let me
goes
be clear.
there, but
I'm not saying that like Justin Tipping totally dropped the ball on this one. What a terrible
Tanner, would you say he
debut.
fumbled it?
Hello, hello. I think that he certainly has a little bit of panache, and he certainly shows some promise here. I think that perhaps that him is a story of trying to reach a bit too far, and not quite getting there,
Mm,
perhaps. Because there are flourishes, there are visual ideas here that are interesting. The X-ray stuff that you said happens a couple of
yeah.
times in this film, and it's always a cool choice whenever he decides to do it. I think it does result in a little bit of if you can't believe it, you can't really tell people just apart just by their skeletons.
Mhm.
So I got a little bit confused as to which character is which in those
Yeah, yeah.
sequences. But I think there also is just overall a sense of polish to this movie. So I'm not
Yeah.
going to disparage him for that. It feels very like 2020s studio
Yeah,
horror
yeah, yeah.
film in the way that it looks and feels and the atmosphere and things like that.
Yeah. And I also have
Um,
to
tr-
say that
yeah.
part of the reason why I think it's easy for the general audience goer who's much more familiar with the works of Jordan Peele, particularly Get Out and Us are obviously his two biggest movies, but even Nope was a solid success. Is I think on a visuals level and on a like moments of iconography and imagery level, I think this movie is pretty comparable. The ways that things are framed, the
Hmm.
again like there's like this mascot character that's like covered in like tinsel
Yeah.
whatever, and like
Yep.
that to me and like this big open desert and all this stuff, it feels very in line with Us and Nope in the way that it uses shadows and interesting moments of imagery, and so I think that if unless you're watching it and paying attention to the dialogue and the larger plot and themes,
Hmm.
on a visual level, I think this fits very much in line with the Monkey Paw Productions other
Sure.
things. Like,
Yeah.
I can feel the Monkey Paw
Mhm.
style, and I don't know how much Jordan Peele was involved in this, but I
Mhm.
can understand why someone with this kind of vision would fit under that production banner.
Yeah, I would agree, but I also don't know how readily I'm going to like. Yeah, man, you copied Jordan Peele's style. Great job.
Yeah,
Like
well,
I
I
don't
mean, it
know
made
how.
a cool looking movie, so like that's fine by me.
Yeah, but I just feel that the thing that attracts me to a Jordan Peele movie is not like screen grabs that I can post on Twitter
Sure.
necessarily. It's the story material that
Yeah,
he is
yeah.
able to, as an auteur, writer, director, able to layer in accompanying these images and
Yeah.
give those images a profound a meaning
Yeah,
that
yeah, of
is really
course.
interesting to think over. That I feel is really what is lacking in
Yeah.
him. Because the two sort of reviews that I read from some of the folks I follow on Letterboxd who are also actual like real critics, both pointed and distinctly
Hey, wait,
called this
I didn't
film.
post a review.
Oh, sorry. Well, not yeah, yeah,
Hmm?
yeah. They called this film. They said it had like it's a real rocks in its brain movie. It's a
Mm,
real dumb movie kind
mm,
of thing. And I don't know if I will like parrot those criticisms
sure.
necessarily, but there is not a lot of depth to him. I
Yeah.
think it is really lacking in that. I think it is a collection of like kind of neat ideas and like some coolish imagery and things like that.
Mm,
But again, it's all stuff that you get in the trailer for this movie, which I think
mm,
is ultimately the issue.
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
Especially whenever we want to get into the spoiler, the reveals of this film. I think that's really where it falls short as well.
Well, I mean, we might as well just
Okay,
go shirt off, go helmet off here.
sure. Oh, here we go. Here
Whoa.
we go. Helmet to helmet.
For
Here we
him,
are.
but I think the place to start where I think this movie falters the strongest is
Hmm.
that though, as I mentioned, I think Tyreek Weathers does a very good job in the
Yeah,
performance here.
he has a football background as well,
Oh,
so
okay.
they cast well for that,
Yeah.
and yeah, he does a solid job. I'll give it that. Yeah.
Where I the movie kind of plays into its strengths and weaknesses for me in this one aspect of the
Mm,
main character Cameron Cade, played by Tyreek Withers, is
mm,
Tyreek's performance, especially at the beginning, is very. He feels very fresh faced. He feels like he's very wide
hmm.
eyed, and he's a quiet person, which is interesting
Yeah.
for football culture and the place in pop culture that he seems to be serving, and the amount of
Hmm.
fans that he has, and like the goals that he has of being the greatest of all time. But he is a reserved, honest, quiet guy that sometimes lets his anger flare out, but otherwise he's sitting there and he's like, oh, and you can see like the concern in his eye. He's got these big puppy
Hmm.
dog eyes that are always
He
like
does.
just looking around at things, and I'm like,
Hmm.
this is a really interesting way to frame a football character, someone that I think is much more relatable and feels very human in this
Hmm.
ridiculous scenario. Even if the ridiculous scenario to someone like me would be just football culture in general is like very bodacious and
Right. Right. It's
outsized, and
outsized. Yeah.
yeah, and but he feels he feels very believable. He feels very personable.
Yeah.
And the
Especially
problem
when
is,
he's like super out of his depth in basically everything that's going
yeah,
on in
yeah,
this
yeah,
movie.
yeah. You know, he's going to parties that he hasn't really been to before. He's like signing
Hmm.
contracts, and he's just like, okay, like
He's going to giant like desert compounds that
yeah,
have twisting, winding rooms and things. Yeah.
yeah. But the problem becomes because I really like that as like a start of like, all right, where's this character, this believable character, and
Yeah.
he's performed very well. Where's it going to go? And the answer is kind of nowhere. He never really
Yeah.
gets characterization. He never really gets
Yeah.
enough backstory, enough dialogue for you to really understand who he is as a person. And so he ends up feeling like he's just like pushed around in these sequences where I'm like, okay, I think Tyreek is doing a good enough job, but the script and the scenario for Cameron Cade is not there
Mhm.
enough for me to feel like by the end of the movie that this is a well fleshed out character. He's got a good base concept, but they don't really build on
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, I mean, they frankly just hit the same notes of,
Yeah,
like, his father
I agree.
again and again. It's like
Yeah,
and he has the scene towards the end of the movie where, like, he sort of breaks down crying in the middle of an interview where he reveals that the last thing he said to his dad was that he didn't wanna play football anymore, and that sort of motivated him after his father died to,
yeah,
like, become the greatest of all time and
yeah.
totally dedicate his life
And the
to
other
this.
element of that is that the only way he can kind of put that out of his mind is by being on the field and being in the
Yeah, yeah,
game.
he
And so
closes everything
it
out,
gives
yeah.
him a motivation, but it
Mhm.
comes too late in the movie for me to
I will
feel
also
like
say
yeah.
yeah, I'll also say that with that idea that, like, the football field is a safe space for him, a safe space where, like, he doesn't have to think about his dead father or
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the, all the other things in his life, that there's not a lot of, like, football being
Yeah, sure.
played in
No.
this movie.
Almost none.
There are practice
Yeah.
sequences that yeah, we are familiar with from the marketing materials, but like you never see Cameron Cade playing football,
Yeah. It
and you never really see oh god, Marlon Wayans' character. What's his name?
he's the
Something. Oh,
goat.
Isaiah White.
Isaiah, yeah.
You never see Isaiah White like playing football
No.
really either. Maybe I mean technically right at the beginning, but I think this film shows a little bit of its budgetary constraints there
Sure.
that they
Mhm.
don't really have the budget to like
Yeah.
stage a full football game, college or professional or otherwise.
Yeah,
So,
maybe. Yeah, I think that you're right. That is something that feels like it's kind of missing. I think this movie,
mhm.
for me, is missing more of that setup because we
Yeah.
get a childhood montage of Kevin Cade as a kid and why
Mhm.
he's like the passion that his family has for football. Like he's sitting there on the floor, wide eyed, as like
Mhm.
he's like absorbing football culture. And I think that's actually a really good sequence that sets
Sure.
us in
Yeah.
a mindset of how a young person can be absorbed into this culture. But then we hard cut, and he's gone through all of the
Yes.
trials and
He is
tribulations of
a
growing up.
he is
Um,
a professional football prospect for the NFL. I mean the USFF,
ah.
excuse me.
You
I
had
do
that cooking in your mind. You're like, oh, I get to make this little
yeah.
joke.
Yeah. Um that specifically is also just a little just a hurdle for me. The mental gymnastics of like it all just feels a little bit too parodic in this
Hmm,
movie. I would say,
sure.
because obviously the NFL is not going to give
No.
them licensing rights for the league or the team names or anything like that. When the ultimate point of this movie is, hey, surprise, surprise, or is sorry for the spoilers, folks, that the NFL is evil, and the teams and the ownership
Yeah.
are evil.
It's
Um,
manipulative. It's taking advantage of the people. It doesn't seem to care too much about the human element of the
mhm,
men that are playing these games. Yeah, that is
uh-huh,
the ultimate point, and we'll certainly get to that. But I think the
yeah,
reason why all this, to your point, I think can feel a little parodic is that we don't get a sense of this world before we're thrust too much into it.
yeah,
Like
mhm,
I think that especially for the supporting characters of whom there aren't very many and they aren't very good.
yeah.
Cameron Cade's family, I was like kind of confused. But I'm like, is that guy his brother? Is that like does he have like they have a cousin? Does he have a best friend? So
Mhm.
this is his girlfriend, but like we don't know anything about their relationship. Like, okay,
No.
I can like surmise a lot about his mother and like his father's death, but like, what about the wider
Mhm.
like what was his what really was his childhood like? What really was his
Mhm.
college career like? What is he like as a person when he is in his element?
Yeah,
That's the
I think
problem.
it all goes back to the character
We don't
issues,
get
yeah.
enough of Cameron Cade as just whoever he is in his life before he is separated from that and placed into
Uh-huh.
something that is testing him personality wise, physically, after his
Mhm.
injury, because the injury is the first thing we see of him
Yeah.
when after the montage. And so I'm like,
Yep.
well, so what is he like before the injury? Like
Yeah,
I,
exactly. I totally agree, and ultimately it makes the ending, like the catharsis of the ending fall flat
I
because you're
agree.
like, I
Yeah.
never got a good sense of who this guy was or like,
Yeah.
and I don't feel especially connected for him for like boom sticking it back to these guys, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Especially because we never get a sense that he is worried about being taken advantage of, or
Mhm.
that he's not trusting of the league managers
Yeah.
or whatever, or even his manager that he has, that again is not a very well fleshed out
Mhm.
character. um and so you're right, the catharsis is lacking punch because there's not enough context given for, I
Mhm.
mean, you can surmise the context, but for this specific character it almost doesn't feel like a personal thing for him. It's just something he kind of stumbles into.
Yeah, it feels like the script is driving it more than a natural build of
Yeah.
anything.
Which to
Um,
that point, actually, I
yeah.
think is a good way to segue to where I do think this movie is kind of off balance. Is I do
Mhm.
think that Isaiah White is a better
Yeah,
fleshed out character. I
let's
think
talk
that the
Marlon.
movie feels more about him than it does about Cameron Cade,
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
terms of how strong his personality is, how well we understand his
Sure.
backstory, what a unique character he is in the
I
role that he
mean,
serves in this world.
he's frankly always talking about like his motivation and his
Exactly.
backstory and
Yeah.
everything. Um, I will say that yes, technically, then you get a better sense of his story as a
Yeah.
character. I will say that I felt the script, or perhaps it was maybe just Wayne's performance it was a bit of an issue for me that at the beginning he's pretty compelling, I would say, as like a hey buddy, we're all family here, but you gotta find that thing deep inside you, like that kind of stuff. I think Wayne, that is the good part of Wayne's
Yeah.
performance. But there is just a turning point in
Yeah.
this movie. There's a flipping of the switch for him, where like his characterization changes a
Yeah, I
little
agree.
bit, but like it's just enough for me to be like, it's just not as good as like what it
Sure.
was. It's just like a different, less interesting kind of crazy, I would say.
Hmm.
Um, and perhaps if that was more what it was in the beginning, then it would feel a little bit more holistic, a little bit more fleshed out. Because I guess ultimately what you can say motivates him in the back half of this movie is the fear of being replaced by
Yes.
Cameron.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I don't really get a sense of that in the
Yeah.
first half. I think there is a shift in his character that you
Yeah.
never really get until you like backfill that information by the end of the movie.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Especially, well, I mean, it is established early on that this is why Cameron is there. The fact that he
Hmm.
may become the next QB
Yeah.
for the San Antonio Saviors. Um,
Hmm.
and then I again, I think you surmise that that is something that he's worried about.
Yeah, but you
Um,
never really get the full extent of like the stakes of it.
yeah.
I would say, which I guess is just an issue of like the stakes of this movie, and it's once
Yeah.
it pulls all of its curtains back.
Well, let's talk about that because
Okay,
this movie, we've been talking about it mostly as a football drama
right.
of the young upcoming star who, again, as we said, is not very well fleshed out, and the star who's been at the top and now is at the end of his career. Um,
Hmm.
but it it also is a horror movie that
Yes.
has some supernatural elements, or does it? It's very
Well,
hard to tell
yes.
what this movie is going for in terms of its. I like its imagery a lot on like the sound design level and the striking
Hmm.
costumes and the lighting, the way that all plays together for, as I said, a very visceral experience. I'm enjoying watching these,
Hmm.
but the moment I think a little bit deeper about why am I seeing these things? What is this
Hmm.
conveying to me? The world of him starts to feel a little bit flimsy to me. And I think that that is the
Yeah.
place where I'll give the most credit to people like saying this movie does not hold up, is that the context for its imagery is pretty weak. So Cameron Cade gets hit on the head by a fucking giant guy, and then
Yeah.
he gets staples in his head. He has a concussion or something like that.
Hmm.
One thing I will say, I do like the staples in his head kind of mirroring the
Yeah. It's
stitches on the
neat.
football. I think that's an
Yeah.
interesting,
Yeah.
because like then it's like, oh, he's meat, he's pig skin, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. I
um
gotcha. I gotcha.
he's an airhead.
Right.
But so he has this concussion, and is that what's making him see these things, or is any of it real? Is there like this darker, like maybe even like ritualistic culture going on here, or is he seeing a good chunk of it because he's
Mm.
concussed and he's stressed? Like this
I
movie
mean, there are
plays it both
yeah.
ways, and it's hard to tell.
There are of course the jump scare moments essentially
Yeah,
of like he sees something and then he blinks and it's gone or whatever, you know. And yeah, those feel a little bit, weak, a little bit cheap to me, because it's always like creepy guy in a costume, or there I think distinctly of the moment of like where he imagines all the paparazzi for like
yeah,
for like
yeah,
a second, and then they all disappear, and then he'll often even see like a really old-fashioned like football player, like a leatherhead, if you will. It's sort of staring at him as well.
yeah.
Yeah, I just think that yeah, the film falters in those moments and bringing them back around back into the station, because let's do it here, Tucker. Let's summarize the ending of the film Him.
Yay!
So we understand that Cameron Cade, after being accepted by the team and by the Isaiah White's team as well, he goes to this party, and like this is the big final moment for him. This is the moment where he says yes and signs the contract, makes the deal with the devil, as it were. So he's there, he's getting fucked up. They're probably drugging him. They're drugging him basically for this
The whole
entire
movie,
movie.
yes.
Um, and then we just like totally shift into all right, and now they're like wearing ghosts and they're cutting people's heads off. Okay, but this is all obfuscated by the editing and the cinematography and
Yeah,
things like that.
and
Julia
again,
Fox seems to be doing a lot of this work as well.
yeah.
Like she is some sort of priestess in this cult, this football cult, essentially.
Well, but even to that point, like because the editing makes it feel very dreamlike, because
Hmm.
the lighting as well, it's like bathed in dark reds and blues and these things. I then get confused as an audience member whether or not any of this is actually happening. And even
Hmm.
by the end of the movie, the end sequence being that there's kind of a one-on-one face-off between Isaiah and Cameron,
Right.
and the victor being Cameron goes out onto this field and then slaughters the the high and
The
mighty
team
football
ownership, yeah.
motherfuckers. Um, and again, because I've been trained by this movie to wonder if the creepy elements, if the seemingly supernatural elements are even
Hmm.
real. Uh, well, not even supernatural, like, but like they feel supernatural just given the context of what's going on. Um, I almost don't know if what happened at the end of the movie even really happened. Like
Hmm.
it's odd. The movie like
Yeah.
plays this odd middle ground where I can't tell if something's real or not.
My main issue with all of this is because yeah, you basically just said it, is that they have this one-on-one moment, and the deepest idea that this film has, the most the spookiest idea I guess that it has, is that they like fuse the blood of all previous like superstars in the
Yeah.
USFF, or this is the USFL, I don't really know.
Who cares?
Anyway, the
Uh,
league.
it's
But
like
they
I know you haven't watched My Hero, but this is what happened
yeah.
with the power All for One,
Okay.
which is the
Is that
power that
All
the main
Might?
character had. Well, All Might
Oh,
passes it down to
I
Midoriya, the
see.
main character,
Mhm.
but it comes from this lineage. And I was
Yeah.
watching this, I'm like, what? What the fuck do you mean? Like
So yeah, they basically fuse the blood of all the all stars and like continually pass that like that blood concoction
yeah, and
down.
you have to
You're like,
have it to be the greatest of all time. Only one person can
yes.
have it at once. I'm like, wait, is this fucking Black Panther? What's going on here? Is it the
um.
heart shaped herb?
So yeah, then he and Isaiah White get into a fight, and Cameron wins, and he goes out onto the football field, and it's the imagery you see on the poster and everything. It's the cheerleaders, it's the people in creepy masks, it's like the altar and everything. But then the film like ultimately like undercuts this because Cameron like decides not to take the deal, and he decides to go on a murderous rampage and kill all these guys. And it's played quite comedically, I would say,
Sure.
especially with Heidecker there and everything. Let's shout
Right.
out to
Yeah.
Tim Heidecker in this movie. Um, and like Julia Fox like trips and stabs herself in the neck, so it's all kind of like slapstick there.
I
But my
agree. Which
ultimate
which which doesn't
ultimate
feel in
thing,
place because like the
yeah.
movie has had like some jokes for between the characters
Yeah,
leading up to that
it
point,
feels
but
like Justin Tipping's trying to do like, oh, remember that fun sequence in Us when like Elizabeth Moss and Tim Heidecker are like running around the house and
oh
fumbling
yeah,
around?
with the music, yeah, with the
Yeah,
Alexa.
it feels like that.
Yeah.
My ultimate thing though with this is that it's just not that interesting to me.
Mm.
Like, you sell me on a movie that's like, what a football, but cult. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, all right. What else you got? And there's like, okay, here we go, guys. There's a cult.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
but
like, and is there an and? And like, not really. The devil might be there too. I was like, really? And they're like, don't worry, the movie's over.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like that's the ultimate sinking issue of him for me is that I'm just like, that's it? Really?
No, I agree, and I think that's
Yeah.
why um I I feel of two minds with this movie. The
Mm-hmm.
ultimately I think that the experience is worth experiencing uh as something a little bit more serious or thought provoking. The movie doesn't reach those heights. It
Yeah.
is because of that last act being like it presents as something that is more thought provoking. I
Mm-hmm.
give the movie a lot of benefit of the doubt leading up to that point because I'm like, okay, you have the room and space in the story to turn around to explain why things are this way. To
Mm-hmm.
but they just don't, and even to the point where uh with Cameron Cade's characterization and this ending feeling a little bit flat, I don't I don't buy that he would be murderous. I don't buy that he would
Frankly,
like
yeah.
because he is a believable person. Like I feel like he's someone
Mhm.
that I could sit down and have a genuine conversation with. Like
Right,
he's
right.
not a meathead. He is someone who thinks through things, who cares about his family, who understands
Mhm,
the stakes. Like he wants to be great. He wants to be respected. But to that point, we rarely see him outside of these moments where he's like literally been drugged and he's like pushed into these training sequences. We don't
mhm.
see him become overly aggressive or feel like that's a part of him like deep down. Like he feels like a real person who is then put into this scenario where I'm like, what I don't think he would beat up Isaiah White. I think he would like try to figure a way out of this otherwise because like that's
Yeah,
what he's presented
I
with the whole movie. He's like
yeah.
whoa guys, like this is a little bit over the top. Like are we sure that this is like he's taking this like a real person would of like this is
Mhm.
fucking crazy, and then he just the switch flips and then he just goes crazy. I'm like, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Ultimately, it just does not feel like a well thought out movie to me. It has the markations of style, certainly, and I will not take that away from it. But even then, I found some of these sequences, these scary horror sequences, to be kind of poorly edited. Not
Mm.
all of them by any means, but like the sauna sequence,
Oh yeah,
where
yeah.
that fan like breaks in there's lots of people running around and in and out of the sauna. I was like, who is where right now? I can't tell.
Well, not only
Like
who's where, who's real, right? Like
yeah, exactly.
it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
And then Isaiah White kills the fan Marjorie, um,
Hmm.
and then I mean that doesn't
And then
really.
they presumably like put her in that mascot costume and shoot her.
Oh, that's yeah, probably, but like
Yeah.
yeah, even like the shooting
Okay.
sequence is like I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
See,
about the
that's just
one like there's a sequence where he's like put in the fucking hyperbaric time chamber or whatever,
uh
the hyperbaric pressure room, and then
right, right,
and he's
right.
like, God, God, let me
Ah!
out. I'm like,
Yeah, he's
huh?
fine.
I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? What's going on here?
See, this is the thing for me is the film has I don't want to keep going back to it, but like sequences that feel good for a trailer for the movie
Sure,
Him, but as a holistic piece,
sure, yeah.
as a film that needs to like ratchet up and establish things and build things to a logical end or some sort of satisfying end anyway. It can't really do that, so it is kind of like a dud for me in those regards. And I've said it a number of times already, but like I'm not going to take away some of the accomplished scenes, some of the polish that is certainly present in this movie. I just think that Justin Tipping perhaps needs a little more time in the oven, needs a little bit more discipline, perhaps as a director. Did he write this movie too, or
Yeah,
is
it was part of a
is
three-person writing team, I believe.
okay?
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, sure, you can have all the aspirations to be like, this prodigy perhaps of Jordan Peele, and maybe we're projecting too much on him having this film produced by Jordan Peele. But like it certainly feels in that lane,
Yeah.
right? We already said that.
Mhm.
But like this is not up to snuff with any of those films.
Yeah.
Not even close, I would say. Just because it doesn't have a lot of that oomph. It doesn't have a lot of that depth.
Yeah.
That makes those films what they are. So Tucker, I'm gonna give this one like a 4.5 out of 10.
Sure. Yeah. I'll say 5.8 out of 10. I think it's
Sure.
above average because I do think there is
Hmm.
that quality in those places. But you're right. And as we talked about it more, it's like no, the package doesn't come together. Like the
Yeah.
the writing really underserves these sequences that I think in a better script could feel very powerful because the imagery is
Yeah.
there, the sound design is there, the acting is there, but
Hmm.
then when you think about them like within the context of the movie, you're like, huh, the fuck are you talking
Hmm.
about?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll be interested to see what Tipping goes on to do, of course. And like I mentioned, I think he is a filmmaker that is starting out, and
Yeah,
I think that he has some ideas. It should be known. We said it right at the beginning. Sports horror movie not really been
yeah,
done. We've
it's
had like
hard.
sports thrillers, like there's like that movie The Fan with Wesley Snipes or whatever, but not fully like delving into supernatural elements.
Was
Which
it this
I do have to
movie?
give it credit there. Yes, because Tim Heidecker gets like dragged out on that altar by a mysterious force. That's like the
Oh,
one
that's
moment where it
true. I
happens.
forgot about that.
Yeah,
What the hell? What are you talking
yeah,
about?
because everyone keeps like looking back at like the smoky like entrance, and you're like, okay, is someone else gonna come out? And it's like, no, it's just like the invisible force of like the devil or whatever. And
That's a
then
good point. Yeah.
and then you see Tim Heidecker like explode into blood behind him or whatever.
Again,
Yeah,
a comedic moment.
a
But
comedic moment
Tanner, thank you
certainly.
very much for sitting down, joining me, and thank you everyone for
Yeah.
watching our review of him. Let us know your thoughts, and we'll see you next time.